Oh, we got you. Hold on. We live. Bring us in, James.
Everybody, welcome to the TD Report. Back after a little bit of a hiatus. Hope everybody enjoyed the NBA draft. It looks like it just finished up, but we have a bona fide expert here that's going to talk about a topic I think that's near and dear to everybody else. We're going to talk a little NBA draft, maybe talk a little ACC basketball with Maryland great point guard Keith Gatlin. Welcome to the show, sir.
How you doing? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Everybody, for those who don't know, and this is a local show, Keith. Most of these folks are a lot of Terps fans on here. But for those that don't know, Keith Gatlin is a guy who, for gentlemen of my age that grew up here in the D.C. area, we grew up kind of idolizing this gentleman because he got to play during an era of Maryland basketball with Coach Lefty Driesell, with great players on the team in an era of the ACC when the ACC was the top conference in all of college basketball. A lot of great memories watching Keith Gatlin play, watching him play, with the likes of Len Bias when they were playing against guys like Ralph Sampson. You're playing against Michael Jordan and all those dudes, So you've got tons of stories that you can share with us. Before we get going, when we talk a little bit about your career and moving into the draft, which is why Tony wants you on the show, mainly. That's beside from the fact that y'all know each other, is we want to talk about what it was like playing for Lefty at Maryland. Tell us that first. Let's start there.
Oh, it was a blessing. I tell people all the time, Coach Driesell was way before his time. He was a player's coach. He was smart as a whip. People didn't give him that kind of credit because he was very, very knowledgeable of the game, the Afro-American community. He always preached about D.C. He called it Chocolate City. And he was a master recruiter. So it was a blessing to play for Coach, and I hold those memories very dear to my heart.
Now, Lefty, played his college ball in the state of North Carolina. He played at Duke. You went to high school down in North Carolina. Yes. And a lot of people don't understand what Tobacco Road really means. A lot of people still don't understand that. Tell us about that, what it's like playing high school ball in North Carolina.
Oh, it's obviously one of the best areas, just like the DMV, for high school basketball. And at that time, there was so many great guys coming out. Brad Daugherty, Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins.
James Worthy,
Phil Ford, Buck Williams. The list could go on and on.
Sleepy Floyd.
Oh, yep. Man, we got a ton of NBA players. And to be in the state and to play in that atmosphere was great. So that's a must on every Tuesday and Friday night, the same way it is in the DMV.
Okay. Crazy high school atmosphere. Everybody, when we want to talk about high school recruiting, it's all online now. Okay. Right. Keith Gatlin we grew up in the era where it wasn't done online. Anything you heard about recruiting, either you were involved with it as a player or your parents were sitting in the living room with the coach. Maybe your next door neighbor knew about it. Right. Hey, right. Your dad might have gone and told the neighbor, hey, can you move that truck out the way? Because I got a coach that's going to be coming in. Now, everybody sees this on television, but you, Keith Gatlin, were recruited by over 200 colleges. That's incredible. Yeah, 200.
That was a blessing. And like I said, in the state, it's so competitive. And at the time, AAU was not really, really big. So you had to go to five-star camp and to prove your worth against the guys from D.C., from New York, from the West Coast. And once you did that, the cat was out of the bag. It was a no-brainer then. So I got noticed at five-star. I was best playmaker one week, and then I went back for another 2 weeks, and there was the likes of Tommy Amaker, Kenny Smith, Muggsy Bogues. Everybody was there. And once you play on that level of competition, the cat's out of the bag. And then I tell kids all the time, it doesn't matter where you're from. As you can go, the coaches are coming.
You played in an era of college basketball that was more position-driven than maybe it might be now, where the college point guard was extremely, extremely important.
Right.
Talk to us about what your high school coach instilled in you. to make it so that you could play on the Division I level, taking care of the basketball in one of the toughest leagues in the country to do just that?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. At the time I came out, the big point guard was the thing. You know, myself, Nate McMillan, you know, Magic Johnson was before us, Sidney Moncrief, all those guys, Jeff Greer, Jay Humphries, you know, Ricky Pierce. So, and back in our day, if you turned the ball over, you knew you was coming out because the ball was so valuable. A turnover back then was every time you turn the ball over. I don't care if you threw a pinpoint pass to somebody. If the guy didn't catch it, that's your fault as a point guard. So as soon as the ball was turned over, you know you're coming out. It ain't no ifs, ands, about it. You know you're coming out. So the ball meant something back then. The possessions really meant something.
Okay.
Back then, possessions really meant a lot. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Tony, don't let me monopolize your time, sir. This is a TD report. We got to get Tony involved.
Hey,
Sorry about that.
You doing right. Well, what I wanted to bring, Keith, look, we talk about your playing career. Where I was tripping, I used to be, stubborn. When Keith went overseas to play, and I'm like, man, Keith, them dudes over there ain't balling. He came back and said, TD, they got some hoopers over there. And he was on the record. He was the first one to tell me about Nowinski and Tony Parker before they even went, because he played in Germany and in France. So keep telling me about what you were telling me.
Well, if I can go back, Dave, it's a backstory to that. Tony's like family, but I didn't know he was such a Carolina fanatic. And you shake your head, So I don't know this young high school kid. And we used to go out to a local place called the Cellar on Route 1 and Bentley's. And we beat North Carolina on a Wednesday night, the first time they lost at the Dean Dome. So we get back Thursday morning, blah, 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 go to class, whatever. So Thursday night, we go down to the Cellar, me and Lynn Byers. And he was young. He couldn't get into the club at the time. And we walking into the club. I hear this young guy, yo, sorry, yo, just beat him. You wait till they come up here. We're going to beat y'all, all this and that. And I turn around and I'm like, who is this guy? And Lynn Byers like, do you know this guy? I said, I never met him a day in my life.
Never met us.
We start laughing and he's still chirping at the mouth. He's going. And there's a line of people. So we stop and we engage a conversation with him. And he started running all these stats about Carolina, what they used to do in the day and all. And so we go into the club. We don't think we're going to see him no more. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. We come back out. This same guy's out there. And he's still talking. And make a long story short, we became the best of friends after that, because I was just like, if anybody going to heckle us in the club and wait outside the club, this guy got to be passionate about sports. So we became the best of friends after that. But I was
watching that game. I was watching that game from home, guys. Old Jefferson Pilot Raycom Sports game, man.
Yes.
Was watching that, and just the stuff that I got to see, because the mystique around North Carolina back then was, are they ever going to lose in the Dean Dome? People were thinking, oh, they're invincible here. Legendary head coach. And you guys went in there, the Maryland Terrapins went in there on a Wednesday night and literally shocked the world. And I mean, it showed also just how tough the ACC is just in general. That's the old ACC, boys and girls, for our fans and our listeners. And thanks for listening to us. Hit the like button and subscribe button. We've got Keith Gatlin here. We've got Tony for the TD Report. I'm David. We're talking ACC basketball, and we're just about ready to get in and talk about the draft and how things have gone global. But again, my question, I grew up with the old ACC where there were 8 teams. That's it. It was 8 teams. You could run that ACC tournament in, 4 days?
The ACC tournament was 3 days. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yes.
3 days. If you were not a North Carolina fan back then, you had to know somebody that had extra tickets.
Absolutely.
Because North Carolina fans were so used to being in that final. Every session, North Carolina fans are buying tickets.
Mhm.
They're buying tickets. Your team lost your team lost in the quarters. You're trying to get rid of all your tickets. Someone's trying. There's a Carolina fan sitting right there ready to buy your tickets. They're just pouncing on you.
Oh yeah, Carolina fan, Duke fan, State fan, Wake Forest fan, no question.
Yep. That was.
And it was funny because
Yeah. Now
it was
most of
funny.
the tournaments were held in Greensboro back then. It was almost always Greensboro, but there have been a few times in ACC history where the conference championship has left the state of North Carolina. Now it's a little more different because the league has expanded so much. You see it in DC a few years. You've seen it up in Barclays, up in New York. It's gone down to Atlanta quite a few times. I don't know if it's gone any further south than Atlanta. Tony, has the ACC tournament basketball ever been held further south than Atlanta?
I don't know. Ask Keith. Florida?
So. I don't think so. I think it's been Charlotte, DC, New York, and then Atlanta.
And then Greensboro. Greensboro is like one of the it's never leaving Greensboro.
It was in St. Pete one year, Keith.
Greensboro
State, I think it made it to Florida one year.
Greensboro been the place,
the
and
most.
it's ironic that I actually moved to Greensboro. I've been living here probably 30 years, but it's funny because back then, like you said, it's 18. If you lost on Friday, it don't need to stay around. You flying right back out.
Yeah.
And everybody felt like we didn't get a fair whistle because the ACC office was here in Greensboro. And like you just said, the fans wanted to see the North Carolina teams. And for so long, leftists should have won it before us when Buck Williams and them got cheated when they undercut it. But, so for us to win it down here, it was amazing. But you're right, though. With 8 teams in it, it was amazing. But I tell people all the time, and I know I'm showing my age, back then, you wanted to win your home games and probably go 500 on the road. If you did that, you're a bona fide NCAA team, and you in the top 4 in the ACC. But now it's so watered down, I think, and I'm not hating on the young generation, but when we played, every night we played, you played against a pro every single night. And I was telling TD last night, now you look at the draft, you don't see no pros out of ACC. I mean, you just don't see them. And then back then, Clemson was one of the worst teams in the league. They had Eldon Campbell, who played forever in the NBA.
Dale Davis.
Yes, played forever. Virginia had John Crotty. He played forever in the NBA. Wake had Muggsy Bogues.
Don't forget Brian Stith. Don't forget Brian Stith at UVA. He watches the show. Sorry. I don't want Brian calling me getting mad.
Brian Stith is my guy, but he was a little after our time.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, in our era, Georgia Tech kept a stable full of pros. Sally, Mark Price, Dwayne Farrell, Yvonne Joseph, Bruce Dalrymple. State had a stable full of pros. I mean, State had Charles Shackelford, Chris Washburn, Nate McMillan, Lorenzo Charles, Spud Ware. I can go on and on the list, so
Chucky Brown.
Oh my goodness. Every time you played a game then, you was lining up against a pro. And TD laughing at me now. I see these guys and I've been like, no disrespect to these guys, but I don't see no pros. And that's not a bad thing. That's the truth, because the European kids now are the new American kids.
Let's talk about that. On the TD report, we're going to shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about globalism and kind of when that started. A lot of people will go back in NBA history and speak about the Dream Team, playing in Barcelona. And that's the first year that we had professional players play in the Olympics. I would go back even further than that. We were sending college teams overseas, and they would have, your preseason games. They'd have a couple of games where the teams would go overseas, where
and they would get beat.
Play over in France.
And the college kids would get their head tore off. You can't play with college kids no more against the European players. It's just not going to happen anymore. If we don't bring the game
differently too. Yeah,
no question. If we don't bring our best, we're not going to beat the Europeans. Even back in the day when we start taking the All-Americans and the first-round draft picks, they still couldn't win.
Is this a question of how the game is coached overseas? And I'm talking about at their elite levels. I'm talking about at they don't do things the same way we do as far as high school, grade school, high school, college. They don't do it that way. There's not going to be a great basketball team at the University of Paris. It doesn't happen. A high school kid, a high school age kid, Keith Gatlin, if your dad or mom was in the military, you were stationed over in France or stationed over in Germany, you would probably play for a team on the base where it was all the kids, parents, your dad was a colonel, or your mom was a colonel or whoever, and all the kids, the American kids, would play on a team on the base, right? And then you guys might play other semi-pro teams or their lower level team, where the pro team, for example, in Paris or France, they're going to have a pro league over there. And they're going to have divisions of the pro league.
That's a great point. And I've been telling TD this for years. The way the Europeans have caught up to the American kids, like you said, you don't have a high school team, but you have club teams. And if you watch the soccer, PSG Paris is the big soccer team. But under that is feeder teams, and their aspiration is to get to PSG. But you're practicing with the pros, you're doing everything. When I first went over to Europe, I called TD back, and I'm just like, man, the rules are different. And for the most part, every European comes over, they can shoot the piss out of the ball. Because if you shoot a jump shot in Europe and it touches the rim, you can knock it off. In America, that's goaltending. Mm-hmm. But in Europe, if you're shooting a one-on-one free throw and it touches the rim, it's knocked off. So that's why your Europeans are so good shooters. You're going to make 300 to 250 shots in the morning. You're going to come back and do the same in the evening. And the American system is we're going to do AAU from elementary on up. The European system is the three of us are grown men. The younger guys are going to live with us, practice with us. So they're getting a grown man feel, speed, and strength when they're 15 years old. By the time they turn 18, they already ready to go. A perfect example, Tony Parker played in Paris. He played 5 minutes against me, but his Americans were Brian Howard from NC State, played for the Dallas Mavericks, Derek Stewart from Arkansas, and AJ English, who played with the Wizards at the time, was the Bullets. But he's practicing, doing everything. So when he comes to the Nike Hoop Summit against the McDonald's All-America, he already done seen this for 5 years. Mm-hmm. Ginobili was the same way. Stojakovic, who I played against, Dirk Nowitzki. But I'm going to take you back because I'm a student of the game. When Dirk Nowitzki first came over, the Golden State Warriors really pumped him his first year because the league was physical and Steven Jackson and them were banging him, and he wasn't used to physicality. But once he got used to it and he got stronger, he's a world champion and one of the best to do it. But what has helped the European players, the NBA is a money-making business. Now you can't hand check and you can't touch them no more. So you get a skilled guy that's very skilled and he has the ball and you can't touch him, you at his mercy. When they changed the rules, Steve Nash is 2 times MVP. But in our era, I'm dribbling the ball, and Muggsy Bogues is 5'3", strong, and he put their hand on you, or Nate McMillan, they will direct you the way you want to go. It's a different ball game. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now the NBA changed the rules, so the foreign players, and they get more offense. So now you see the last 5 or 6 MVPs are foreign players. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic.
Jokic. Yep.
The rules are totally different. And what
that's like 6 MVPs right there. Yeah.
Totally different. Jokic is not aggressive on the defensive end, but when he gets the ball, he puts a lot of pressure on you offensively. He's really physical because as a defensive player, you can't touch him. And the European system is one kid is going to be with his coach for 7 years. You're not going to get a different voice. And American kids are going to play for this team this summer. Don't like his playing time. Don't like what the coach saying. He's going to another team the next year. So his game stays the same. He's just getting a different voice of what somebody told him. The Europeans are going to stay in the same system for 7 years. And when that junior coach think you're ready to go on, he's turning you on to the pro coach. So
you're talking about from the feeder team. You're talking about from the feeder team up to the bigger club team. Maybe they have two lower level top teams, but they're feeder teams going into that.
But the main coach on the top team is telling the feeder coach, this is what we run, this is what we do. So he already know the system when he gets there.
Okay.
And these kids will leave, like I played in France, in the league where all these guys get drafted at.
Pro League A?
Yes, the French League, Pro A. What's good about France, you got a university called INSEP in Paris. You go get the best soccer players, handball players, volleyball players, basketball players. And it's no secret all the black kids play basketball in France.
Right.
They coming from French-speaking colonies, Guadeloupe, the Ivory Coast, Martinique, Senegal, Central Africa. So they turned them French to give them French citizenship. And the rest is history. the Athlete Institute in Australia, all the good basketball players, Dellavedova, Luke Longley, all those guys, they go to one institution and you go into school, but you feed it into your sport. If it's soccer, handball, volleyball, that's what you're doing 24/7.
Okay.
So you're getting the same message all year round, and they don't release you until you turn pro over there, until you come to the NBA. And now, it's sad to say, but a lot of European teams think their product is better than the NBA.
Let's talk about that for 1 second here on the TD Report. Now, what you've described, where you're talking about hearing one coach or hearing one voice, right? That's really no different than high school, where the varsity coach, it's kind of his team that the JV and the freshmen are trying to feed up into. You get promoted because your grade, what grade you're in, but it's very similar. The varsity head coach is the boss. He's the one who determines.
It used to be back in our day. The varsity coaches now don't have no voice because you got the AAU coach telling him what to do.
That's the problem.
So the varsity coach now, ain't about paying you no mind no more. I'm here to go play for this team right here. He's telling me what school to go to. I'm not listening to you no more. And then you're going to listen to that club because you're aspiring to be Victor Wembanyama, Nicholas Batum, Rudy Gobert, and they telling you the same message.
Rissa Shea, who just got drafted #1. Yep.
I played against his father, Olivier Sard's brother, Alex. I worked with Olivier. His brother, he said when he was younger, my brother gonna be better than me. But now you get the same voice.
And you talked about who the Wizards drafted. They draft Alex Sarr. It's his brother. It's his brother Oliver, right? He's also in the league. Huh?
His brother Olivier is with OKC Thunder.
Okay. The other young man that plays for the Wizards now, it's Bilal Koulibaly.
Yes.
Tell me about him.
6'6" guard, very skilled, played in the Pro A in France. And Pro A is the best thing with the NBA. If you average 10, 11 points in Pro A as a young boy, 18 years old, that game's going to translate to the next level.
That's the best word. That's the best word you've said. The game translates from their pro league over to the NBA.
People don't understand. Last year, Victor Wembanyama played in Levallois, which is really Paris. Levallois is like Bowie, Maryland to DC. It's right outside. They went to the championship and lost 3 games in a row. But he was playing against John Brown, that's making a lot of money from High Point University, Blossom Gaines from Clemson. Mike James played in the NBA. He played against 6 or 7 grown men. So they beat them 3-0. And Victor Wembanyama come over to the States and tear it up this year and should have been Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, everyone, as a rookie, Victor Wembanyama averaged 21 a game.
But he was playing against grown men
already. Yeah.
So
he didn't have the learning curve that you expect from most Euros that come over, and you definitely expect the college kids that are here in the States. They have a learning curve in the NBA.
The college kids have a learning curve because the game is different. And I try to tell kids all the time, the points you score in high school are not going to translate to college, and the points you score in college are not going to translate to the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
I coached Aaron Wiggins in high school, and he went to the University of Maryland. He's with OKC. Out of all the guys that was ahead of him, but OKC, they not there no more because Aaron is smart and he listens. He's like, Coach, man, I can do a little more than they let me do. I said, are your checks coming on 1st and 15 on time? He said, yes. I said, well, just sit there and run to the corner, have your hands ready when Shea Gilgeous-Alexander or Dort give you the ball because they're making $100 and $150 million. You're not going to be able to do the stuff you used to do in college because that's not your role. It's like you go to the Boston Celtics, you're going to pass that ball to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I'm over here if you need me. Other than that, you're going to live with the results. And that's what the American kids don't understand. Yes, you used to do this, but it doesn't make a difference when the business side comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the European kids get that. And I tell kids all the time, I can't remember one European kid that came over and got in trouble.
It's very rare. It's rare.
I can't name one.
Mm-hmm.
I can't name one. So the European kids are the new American kids. And TD laugh at me because you look at all these really good guys that played in college this year. None of them got drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Filipowski, I can't believe he didn't go. He pick and pop.
This is probably, guys, and tell me if I'm
You
wrong.
can believe it. You can believe it.
Tell me if I'm wrong on this, Keith. For Filipowski at his size and the level of skill that he has, being drafted is probably not the best thing for him. I think he might be better served, maybe even playing overseas for a little while, or possibly being a undrafted free agent and picking which camp he goes to where they need a backup center. You see what I'm saying?
Right. He got drafted. He got drafted today by I forgot who in the second round.
So he did get drafted. Great.
Yes, but the problem is, and I was telling TD this, Armando Baker played 5-6 years at North Carolina.
He did.
He led all broke all the records and everything. He didn't sniff the draft because his skill set is a throwback game to when we play. They don't pay for that no more.
Yeah, it doesn't translate.
Porzingis is a 7'3" center, but he don't go to the block. He posts you up at the free throw line and at the elbow. He ain't going nowhere near the post. He gonna get the little guy at the elbow and shoot over. So that's the new post up for big guys in the NBA. And if you can't pace and spread the floor no more, it's not a place for you anymore, which is sad because the game has changed so much. If you can run and jump and dribble and shoot threes and play multiple positions on defensive end, you can find a place in the NBA.
Another plot twist, or just another development that's happening in the NBA now, Tony, as well as Keith, is the rise of the NBA second and third generation of players. So if you look at the U17 men's national team for U17, so these are kids that are not necessarily collegians yet, okay? On the roster, Carlos Boozer has 2 sons trying out. LeBron's younger boy is trying out. Carmelo's son is trying out. He'll be headed to Syracuse next year. And Trevor Ariza's son will be trying out.
Wow.
So right there, and I might have missed one. So right there, those are 5 or 6 guys, right, whose dad played a long NBA career. Hell, LeBron's still playing. Okay. Having your father be an NBA player, if you look at Steph Curry and Seth Curry, where you have NBA money backing you up, and the guys that were babysitting you when you was 5 and 6 years old is Alonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson, Muggsy Bogues. Those are the dudes that are hanging out with you and teaching you things that you can't learn in the NCAA. These are things that you learn just being around NBA players a lot. What do you think about the U17, the U18s, the guys that are just starting to cut their teeth that are second generation and third generation NBA players?
I think it's great because that shows their fathers are putting a lot of time in with them and they showing them the right way to go. I saw something with Carmelo Anthony told his son, like, you're not going no NBA. You got a lot of work to do. You got to do X, Y, and Z. That's priceless for a young man to hear that from his son.
Mm-hmm.
That's priceless. And that's going to go a long way. And what a lot of kids don't understand, it's not in this day and time the best player that's playing. It's the skill and the smarts that's going to get you over the hump. Mm-hmm. And when I say by that, if you put me when I was playing in a pickup game and you just watch me, you would say, oh, he's not that good. He's 6'5", he's slow, he can shoot, he can handle, but he's not a high flyer. He's not doing a lot of the things that excites people. Mm-hmm. But when you put popcorn in the stands and the referees and you tell me to go out there and direct this team, I'm the best guy on the floor. Mm-hmm. And that's what Stephen Curry has shown people. He's not going to dunk the ball. If you put him in a pickup game, you'll say, oh, I can get him, because he's not going to do nothing but shoot a three and show you what he can do. But when you put referees out there and stuff like that, now you got a problem. And I tell people, I've seen so many guys in D.C. and back in North Carolina that was way better than me. I'll be the first to admit that. But you can be a different player in street ball, but when that whistle get on you, you crack up.
Yeah, it's not the the NBA is not the N1 mixtape tour, and there's nothing against the N1 mixtape tour. There's nothing against pickup basketball, and to a degree, Keith, some people will say that what has happened with a lot of NBA players, a lot of college players, and a lot of American-born players is the loss of the creativity and the hard work that you put in on the hard court, on the pickup court. A lot of these kids today, they don't play pickup basketball. They're playing AAU. They're playing AAU ball. And
you have to have both. And I tell my son, you got to go and play street ball, and then you got to go work out and play under the whistle, because you need both of those. But the ones that's smart, because all of us are not going to be God gifted like Michael Jordan and Anthony Edwards and LeBron James. You can put Michael Jordan in a structure game or a pickup game. He's that dude.
Yes.
Anthony Edwards, athleticism, street ball, any kind of way, he's that dude. But like I said, Stephen Curry played at Charlotte Christian here. He was not highly recruited. Then he got stronger, picked the right school for him. They developed him. And then once he got confident with the ball in his hand, the rest is history.
Sure is.
A lot of kids don't understand that. You got to go to the school that really going to let you do what you can do. You can't go to Maryland because you're a Maryland fan. That might not be the school for you. I picked Maryland because Lefty Driesell showed me he loved big point guards. He had Jeff Atkins. He had Ernest Graham. He had Reggie Jackson, Adrian Branch. And then he had John Lucas from North Carolina, Charles Pittman, and Buck Williams. So from a business standpoint, I know you're going to treat me right because you got to answer to Buck Williams, Charles Pittman, and John Lucas. We from the same area. If that makes sense.
Okay, it does. It does.
John Thompson back in the day had DC on lock, and he always recruited a special player. If you went to the John Thompson back in the day, you're going to play deep 94 feet. And if you can pick up 94 feet, you can't play for John Thompson.
That
was part of the deal.
It's pretty simple. I mean, what you see is what you get.
And that's what makes the program special, and that's what makes the school special, and that's why the Europeans are catching us. When you that young and you only get one voice for 7 years, you already, like Luka Doncic playing over here now. The NBA stuff he ain't worried about that. He's been in pressure situations since 15 years old.
Yeah, it does. It really doesn't. They showed videos of what the crowds look like in those European championships.
Hey, let me tell you,
he ain't phased by none of that.
Let me tell you, TD will tell you, when you playing over there and you playing for your country and for big stakes, it's imperative that you win. Because if you think the soccer fans are crazy, you get 15,000 fans in there, they drunk, they jumping and shaking, and you lose as an American, they on your head now. I'm telling you, they on your head. It's a whole different beast now. It's a whole different beast. Yes, indeed.
Hey, let me clear up one point. Somebody just came hit me over here. One of the guys that's in the U17 tryouts in the tryout pool, Gilbert Arenas' son, Elijah. So that's another guy, played in the NBA for a long, long time. He has a son there. So, hey, Tony, that's I just named 6 guys, six or seven guys.
That's pretty good.
You know what they talk about at lunch? Hey, man, did your dad let you drive the Maybach to practice? Yeah, I got. Nah, man, dad's got the Maybach. I'm driving the Range. I'm driving the Range Rover. So these kids basically are Richie Rich. They grew up. Their dads made hundreds of millions of dollars playing NBA basketball. And then they're going to reinvest that into their kid with it, whether it's I'm going to get you somebody that'll work with you on your jump shot, or if you're Steph Curry, who better than Del Curry to tinker with your jump shot?
Hey, Dave, we're going to put Keith on the spot. Keith, who wins the gold in the Olympics in Paris next month?
The USA should.
Mm-hmm.
If it's
Canada
close,
has a good team.
If it's close and the French fans get into it and France is playing, anything could happen. Because at the end of the day, it is a business. And Nicolas Batum, Rudy Gobert, Fortier, Wembanyama, it's about 7 to 8 guys from France that's in the NBA. So
and they're all playing.
And they all ready to play against Americans. You got them on your turf.
Okay.
It's a different whistle and it's a different game. I fully expect the Americans to win, but I think they know it too. It's a different game. It's gonna be
So
tough.
You wouldn't be surprised if France win the gold?
I would be surprised from the simple fact because we got so much heat coming, but we can't keep it close. Like in the NBA, if you keep it close, anything can happen.
Yeah, I think what Tony, I think what Keith is saying is, if you're the United States, the last team you want to see in that gold medal game is France. You don't want to see them in the gold medal game or the semifinals to get to that medal round. You do not want to see France because they're playing at home. What you really want is you want to see France and Canada have to play each other to get to you.
Don't forget Germany now. Don't forget Germany won the world championship now.
Germany won worlds, and they were very good. But that we didn't send this team, the team that we have, this roster, that roster didn't have KD, didn't have LeBron. We're having Steph Curry on this team. So this will be those guys' last hurrah. Okay.
No question.
4 years from now in 2028, LeBron will not be on the team. Steph Curry will not be on the team. KD. All those guys, those 3 guys are going to be retired by 2028.
I fully expect us to win because we have some knockdown shooters and some really good skill players that can open the floor. And in the European basketball, you need space because it's no illegal defenses. You can play help defense.
You can play a zone. You can play zone.
So the NBA guys are not worried about the first man to beat. You're looking to try to find where the help is coming from. And in Europe, all 4 guys are just sitting there watching you. So we got shooters where they can't help that much. I fully expect us to win because we have some really good shooters.
Let me ask another globalization question. Okay, we've talked about France, we've talked about Germany. We probably could have mentioned Spain, for example. Spain has been a very good team as far as internationally for maybe the last 20 years. As long as they had Pau Gasol and those guys, they had a lot of high-level pros that have played for
Yes.
them. When are we going to see an African nation medal at an Olympics in basketball?
Real soon.
Okay.
A kid just
NBA
got
Africa
drafted
has been over
today.
there for many years, is what
A
I'm getting
kid
at.
with the global basketball now and everything, it's a 6'11" kid today that's got drafted. He was the first one from the global NBA academy. And I heard him say when they saw this kid play 5 years ago, they said there's no way. And he already got drafted. And his growth in 5 years was off the chart. So it's going to be soon when I think they're going to medal because the game is global now. And all these kids are watching. The NBA is putting so much money into these global academies. It's just a matter of time.
Okay. That's similar to what you see in baseball, wouldn't you say, Keith? Where they've got the international they'll have the major league teams have academies in the Dominican Republic.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's interesting, and that's like you said, Keith. That's an investment in cash, money to build the facility, and then to put coaches and equipment there to work with these kids. And obviously, we've seen it work in baseball. Juan Soto, everyone's heard of Juan Soto here in DC. Won a world championship here, World Series here with the Nationals. He came out of the Dominican Republic Nationals Academy that they have down there. Okay.
Right. Right.
And he wasn't even expected to be the best player that year that he was brought up. The guy was Victor Robles, but he broke his foot. So they had to bring up somebody. They brought up Juan Soto, and he hasn't been down a day since, on the farm. So that's interesting. You bring up the idea of youth academies overseas in basketball. And I don't think a lot of people really understand that. Or do they have the youth academy? They don't have the youth academies in France and Germany and places. They're using a club system, right?
No, they have INSEP is in Paris, and that's the biggest youth academy. So
they have both. Okay.
They have basketball, soccer, handball, volleyball. So that's you specialize on your sport.
Mm-hmm.
And
do me a favor when you get you and Tony keep in touch. Can you send him the name of that academy? I want to look them up. That sounds so. They're kind of like an IMG, like what we have here in the United States.
Same thing, same concept. They have them in France. They have them in the Canary Islands, Spain. They have them in Sabonis has one in Lithuania. They have them in Australia. It's the same concept. The same concept. And that's why all these kids are getting drafted because it's the same concept. Yes.
Okay. That's amazing. Now, I don't think a lot of people in the United States understand, they might have heard of IMG Academy here in the United States. They don't realize that they can do that over there too. Yep. Same thing. Okay.
Same thing. And with the funding now over there, these guys are making so much money in the NBA. They go back and they buy a club, or like Tony Parker bought the team in Lyon, Asheville. Tony Parker bought that team. So you have guys that go over and give back to their youth, and they start these academies, and you're getting the best of the best training. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey Tony, what do you think the solution is as far as to continue to develop the American game, develop American players that will fit more into this model that has now been created by the NBA?
They need to hire people like Keith Gatlin to run and listen to what he's saying. The people that Keith's experience, those people need to be up higher, and so that they can listen to the people who've been there. Because right now it's not working, and you just throwing your money at the AAU. If I was an AAU thing and I just watched this interview, I would stop all this going around. I would be having my team making overseas trips and playing against, setting up exhibitions against the teams that Keith were just naming. Because I need to see where we are. I need to see real competition. I ain't playing no AAU game and it's Bowie versus Largo. I mean, that's not AAU.
I think I understand both sides, but I think the issue that we have in America, if I'm coaching an AAU team in North Carolina, I'm trying to get the better players, so I'm going to get the better shoe money and the shoe contracts to play on the Adidas circuit, Under Armour circuit, Nike circuit. Now New Balance got a circuit. So that's the lure for the coaches in the States.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's to the point where kids already know, like in your area, if a kid play in the 8th grade, when he turned 9th grade, he pretty much know he's going to Paul VI, Gonzaga, DeMatha, St. John's, Pilates. He already know. When over in Europe, if you live in a certain area, you're not going to Lithuania if you live in France. You got the stuff right here in France. Now you're going to play for country pride, and you're going to play against Spain in the U17s, Lithuania, Germany. So it's more prideful there because you're playing for your country, as opposed to in the States, you playing for a shoe company, and it's bragging rights. Well, this team is better than that team, and I get it from both sides. It's just like when I was in Europe, I was there 10 years. The European system, I didn't have a full day off in 10 years because the Europeans are, if we play on Saturday night, you're going to come Sunday morning, they call recoup. You might run 2 miles around the lake, and then you go get a massage, go get in the hot tub. And the American system is, if we play Saturday night, 9 times out of 10, hey, we got Sunday off. I'll see you Monday morning. Like, and it's just a different mindset. Like, we would travel to a game in Europe, and instead of going to the gym, the coach would say, we're going to get out and walk into the city. I'm like, in American mindset is, why are we going to walk? I want to go into the gym, stretch, I'm ready to hoop. But the European mindset is, let's go walk into the city, let's go get a coffee, let's go get some fresh air, and then let's go into the gym. So it's neither way is wrong. It's just the way we were brought up totally different. Like the Europeans like to walk and like to ride bikes. Americans like, man, I'm gonna catch this car down the street. I ain't walking down the street. It's just totally different mindsets.
What would you say to this, Keith? Gino Auriemma, UConn women's head coach, 7 national championships. He's put dozens and dozens of high-level female players into the WNBA, obviously, and overseas in basketball. He said one thing that would change or could change the concept is how we set up our practice schedule and our game schedule here in the United States, and for the youth at the youth level. And I'm not even talking to high school. I'm talking about AAU is what he's explaining. Is AAU will have 5 practices, and between them 5 practices, they're going to play 10 to 15 games. All he says is to just flip the model, 10 to 15 practices and 5 to 6 games to get more practice time in for each game and more in level of instruction, team cohesion. Hey, listen, point guard, this is the area of the floor we don't want the basketball to go on the dribble. You're going to get trapped over here. Let's bring the ball over here to the middle of the floor, beat the trap, and then you go to the open area, and you can get the basketball back. AAU, it's not necessarily taught like that here. What do you think about that, Keith?
I agree with that because that's a great point he meant, because when I first went to Europe, we only played every Saturday. So we practice until Saturday. And if you lost on Saturday, you got the whole week to be miserable. Yes. So it is a lot of truth to that. But the game is so much money now in the States where if we the coaches and we coaching a young man now, he's making $150,000, $200,000 in college. It's not too much you can say to that young man now, because he's making just as much money as assistant coaches.
Right.
Sometimes, if not more. Mm-hmm. And now we got to be very careful with the game, because a lot of times now you're not coaching now. You're trying to manage, because whichever university got the most money, you're going to buy the best players. And that's why a lot of older coaches decide to step away, because why can you tell a young man that's making $500,000?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If that's just their goal, is to just make that little. I'm not saying 500,000 is little, but if that's their goal is to make the $500,000 once, okay. But if your goal is to be like LeBron James and play 20 years, 21 now in the NBA, play long enough that your oldest son gets drafted into the NBA, that's a goal too. But not everybody's going to reach that goal, Keith.
Everybody's not going to reach that goal, but the young men now have a way to make money before they get to the pros, so they think they're winning. I mean, and I told TD this. R.J. Davis was first team All-American at North Carolina, ACC Player of the Year, and he came back for his 5th year. That's unheard of back in our era in the ACC. If you Player of the Year and first team All-American, you're going to be in the lottery. You're going to be one of the top draft picks in the lottery.
Not necessarily.
Back in our day.
Yeah.
But now he probably figured I can make more money in a safer bet to go back to college because my NIL package is going to be comparable to what I'm making. The kid Coleman Hawkins just left Illinois, and he got $2 million at Kansas State.
That's correct. Or look at it this way, Keith and Tony.
Great for the young man. I mean, great for the young man, but college basketball is now.
Yeah, I would never gash up a kid for making money. I'm not talking about that. What I did find interesting was one guy that got drafted, was drafted yesterday. Good college player, played in college about 3-4 years at Tennessee. Dalton Connect. Mm-hmm. He gets drafted, I think, at pick 17 to the Lakers. Yes. Okay. This kid, I saw him play one game this year. I saw him play against Purdue in the NCAA tournament. Dalton Connect, if he's not one of the 10 best players in college, I'd like to see the other 10. He's amazing. And he didn't go until 17 in this draft. And he's going to play for the Lakers. I'm telling you, this guy can play basketball. He's really good.
He definitely can play. He's 23 years old. So the pros want youth, and they want, we can mold you. He should have been.
They want upside.
Yeah, you already see what you're gonna get from Dalton Connect. The same way with Hawkins, who played 4 years from UCLA, went to Miami. He was first team all rookie. He was a bad boy because he was ready to go.
Oh, he could play at UCLA. I remember that kid.
But
he was good.
But that's not what is selling now for the NBA. You want youth. You look at the first 10, 11 guys that's drafted, they're young, long, athletic. So you have a longer upside. And by the time a kid now turns 23, he's on this second contract.
I think what we're seeing now in the NBA, and correct me if I'm wrong, when Dirk Nowitzki came to the NBA, he was like a duck-billed platypus. People are kind of like, what is he? Because he shoots, he's tall, but he doesn't necessarily post up a lot. He was more of a high post guy. If he's going to post you up, he's going to post you up in the high post mostly, and then do the one leg and shoot over you, which was damn near the sky hook. You couldn't block it, okay? And he didn't miss that shot. Now, Dirk, then you look at a guy like KD. When KD came into the league, he was more of the American version of Dirk in terms of scoring at 3 levels.
Yes.
Tall, slender, extra long arms. But KD could get anywhere he wants to on the court because he had some handle, right? Now we're seeing guys like Chet Holmgren come in the league, Victor Wembanyama, this Risa Shea guy, okay, Alex Sarr. What you're seeing is the evolution of the NBA that's morphing into a different body type, okay? I'm going to give you a name of a guy that you played in your era. What if a guy like Ralph Sampson came along today? He didn't fit in the old NBA. He would fit in the NBA now. Absolutely.
But back then, when he took a jump shot or didn't post up, everybody's like, "Oh man, he's soft" or whatever. But it's just the timing. But in today's game, I don't think I can give you 5 guys that post up on the block. And that's not a bad thing. That's just the way the game is. Joel Embiid,
The game's played, yeah.
he shoots jump shots and he's very skilled, but he don't get on the block that much, you know. And I hear Shaq saying if he get on the block, he would be a monster. But he's so skilled. His 15-footer, you know, Porzingis, like you said, it's like Dirk. He get to the elbow. That's his post-up game. So
yes,
I don't know anybody that posts up anymore. The Joker posts up, but he can do so much stuff. I mean, I don't know any more post-up guys.
he's better posting up because he can push himself into the lane and just dribble his way in and get 4 or 5 dribbles in the paint. And then he just turns left shoulder, turns right shoulder. He's got great hands.
And
you can throw the ball anywhere.
Yeah.
He can pass the ball. It's the game now is a little different because we talk about this, Tony, on our show, positionless basketball, where I've got a 6'11" guy, but in the old days, the 6'11" guy was, hey man, just go stand under the bat, just go stand on the block. I'm gonna get the basketball's coming around. I'm gonna get you the ball right there on your spot, and that's where you shoot from. That same guy, that like a Pat Ewing, you don't have that anymore. And it's nothing against Pat Ewing, by the way. You just don't have that type of big, the type of big that Pat Ewing was when he went into the pros is more what a power big should be now, where he could face up.
Isn't that a Zach Edey?
Huh?
Isn't Zach Edey more of a Patrick Ewing, more of a Olajuwon in them?
Yeah, he's a behind the basket type guy, and he's going to help Memphis.
Yeah.
He's going to replace Steven Adams and get those 15 minutes. And but like the Boston Celtics, they played Jason Tatum at the 5, and they switched everything.
Yep.
If you can switch multiple positions now, then you're pretty much way ahead of the game. And Jason Tatum, 6'9", 6'10", they put him at the 5. He switched. So Porzingis can move his feet. So if you get guys like that now, like Jaden McDaniels from Minnesota can defend 4 or 5 positions. That's what you really want to be.
Yeah, Zach Edey ended up in Memphis. He got picked at the ninth spot. A lot of people were expecting him to maybe go in the second round. I'll say this about him. If you're in the Western Conference, as long as Nikola Jokic is in the Western Conference, if you don't have somebody that can body up this guy, you need about 2 or 3 guys because you're going to get fouls. There's no way you can go against them and say, hey, we're going to play a smaller guy on, Jokic and just pray for the best. He's going to kill you.
Was that pick for them, Keith? Was that Zach Edey pick for them, for teams like Minnesota and them? Who's that pick for?
I think that would help Memphis out a lot because now you're going to move Jaren Jackson to his natural position, which is a face-up 4.
Yep.
Because he's not a banger. He's a really skilled 6'9", 6'10" face-up 4.
Yeah.
And that's why OKC should get a big guy because Chet Holmgren is not a traditional 5.
I think you have to mix and match with that. You have Chet Holmgren as, like you said, a mix, a different type of forward, but you need a more physical guy, down in the blocks because it's like chicken and waffles. You need a little bit of both. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can't just say, hey, I'm going to get 2 guys that are like Pat Ewing. I'm going to put them on the blocks. That doesn't work anymore. You can't do that anymore. You would do something more like what the Rockets did with Pat Ewing. What the Rockets did with Ralph Sampson and Akeem Olajuwon, teams are doing that now. The Rockets were doing that back in '83, and everyone thought it was crazy and it wouldn't work. It worked one time. They got to 1 finals. But if you did that now, with the international flavor, with Akeem Olajuwon coming over here, that can work now. You see what I mean? So in that way, Akeem Olajuwon, in a lot of ways, was ahead of his time.
Oh, absolutely, no question. Yeah.
I saw Keith. You're gonna love this. I saw some video. Akeem is 62. Okay, 62 now. He was on the court in jeans and some slides, showing people how to do the dream shake, showing kids how to do it.
Oh yeah,
61, and looking sharp.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah, I mean it says something when you put all that time and you still take care of your body and stuff like that. That means a lot that you can show the younger generation, like I'm still in shape. I'm still disciplined, to keep myself in shape and stuff. So That says something about his character also.
I love hearing him talk about basketball as well. We love having you on the show, Keith.
Yeah.
Why haven't we had you on the show yet? Tony is the showrunner over here. He's not getting the guests on here, man.
I know he got a lot going on, man. So I'm just glad he asked me now.
He was always in a practice or something else, and I just wanted everybody to know, hey man, I was arguing with this guy, but he was right. He knows those Europeans. Keeping on them Europeans, man. And he said, TD, one day they're gonna be right here with us. And I kept saying, no, ain't no way they coming over here. But
and I do think
you're coaching college now, right?
Yes, I coach at High Point University, but I do think the new rule changes, to be fair to the American kids, has definitely helped the European players, no question.
How do you mean? You're talking about the FIBA rules, or what are you talking about?
The NBA rules, where you can't even in college, you can't hand check.
I see. Okay.
The offensive player has all the leverage now because, if you touch and if you ever watch the Europeans play, they dribble as soon as they get hit, they throw their head back. It's like those soft guys. You think the world's coming to an end, and they know how to sell the fouls and stuff like that. So the new rule changes has definitely helped the skill player. And if you get a guy that's 6'9", 6'10", that can dribble and can shoot, it's virtually hard to stop him now.
Right, because he can get anywhere on the floor he wants to with the basketball.
And if you put a big guy on him, he's going to dribble by him. A little guy, he just going to get to a spot and shoot over him. Yeah.
And shoot over him. That's right. Hey, we're going to get you out with this. Best player you played with, obviously, Len Bias, right?
Absolutely.
Give us the next best player you played with or against college.
Best player I played with, people don't understand, was Adrian Branch. Adrian Branch was so talented, way before his time.
Shout out to the Matha,
6'8", long. And Adrian will tell you now, it came so easy to him, he didn't really take it serious at college. And he still played the NBA, had a long career in Europe.
Had a great career, yeah.
Great, but he was so skilled. 6'8", could do everything. But it came so easy where he'd tell you now that, man, he didn't put in the actual work. Lenny was rugged, wanted all the smoke. People don't understand what Lenny did that took him to another level. He got stronger lifting weights with the football players. He was a really good player.
That's not fair.
A really good player. And then once he bought into the weight room and his confidence shot up, it was over. It was over. Mm-hmm. And obviously the best player I played against was Michael Jordan by far.
It's pretty easy. That's pretty easy to say. I'll tell you what, I'm going to hold you to this one. You can't say Michael Jordan.
Well, the best player at my position that I played against who gave me nightmares was Mark Price. Bad boy.
Ooh. You know what's funny? He looked like a youth pastor, didn't he?
Yeah, that youth pastor could shoot that ball. He could handle it. He could do everything.
Hey, Dave, what I just didn't realize is that Keith and them won the ACC his first year.
Was that 70? What year was that?
83, 84.
84.
40 years ago. But listen, in that same year, Carolina was number one most of the year. Georgetown won the national championship. UVA made the Final Four. I mean,
UDC won the championship in 83.
It was unbelievable in college basketball, dude.
David Robinson was at Navy.
Absolutely.
Yep. David Robinson was a freshman at Navy back then. 83, like 83, 84.
Yeah, dude. It was, when you think about it, dude, that was like the height of all that stuff. Five Slamma Jamma. I mean, the beginning of the Georgia Tech teams, the Duke teams had just gotten started. They just was getting going. I mean, man, you can't. NC State was national champs the year before. So, I mean, come on, dude. That was just, I mean, when you think about it, how crazy it was.
When you go back through ACC history, I'll bring up Mark Price that Keith Gatlin just did. When you go back through ACC history, when you talk about guys that extended where the perimeter really was, it was Mark Price. Because Mark Price, I believe, his freshman year, there was no three-point line his freshman year. I think he played maybe a year or two without the 3-point line, but he didn't go. He was still shooting from out there. That's what he was making twos from.
Yes, I know. Trust me, I know very well. I caught a lot of them twos he was making.
Them long twos.
Yes.
You know,
Hey, Keith, tell us, how easy was it to throw loops to Lenny? Did y'all just had a eye thing? What was it?
Well, just a feel. But people don't understand. Speedy Jones was on the other side. He jumped higher than Lenny.
Oof.
Yes. That was our number one set. If anytime Lenny or Speedy got behind the defense, I'm throwing it up. I don't care if I'm at half court or not. I'm throwing it up.
Yeah, because he's going to seal him off. He's going to seal the guy on his back. He's going to seal him off.
Absolutely.
And just go up and take that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Hey, Keith, we appreciate your time coming on the show.
Thank you.
You are always welcome to come back.
Yeah, we're going to get you.
Have you on there. And Tony, stop arguing with people outside of bars, man.
Hey, man. Hey, when you're 16 years old, 15, 16, you don't know what you're doing, man.
He was a
Keith
mess
Gatlin,
at that time.
everybody.
He was a mess.
With my
Thanks
Carolina football
show,
jersey on, talking trash.
Oh, goodness.
Tony, you're the worst, man.
I know.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Thanks for joining us on the
Okay.
team report.
Thank you,
I'm
Keith.
David. That's Tony. This is Mr. Keith Gatlin. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Great show, everybody. We'll catch y'all again next week.
Okay.
Catch you again next week. Thanks, Dave. Good show. Congrats to UVA. Congrats to all that. See y'all next week. Let's.